You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. James Clear. Have you ever heard that no emotion lasts longer than 90 seconds unless you feed it? That's not just motivational fluff, it's neuroscience. Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor, a Harvard-trained neuroanatomist, discovered that when an emotion is triggered, your brain releases a surge of chemicals that physically course through your body. These chemicals naturally flush out within 90 seconds. But here's the key. If you keep thinking about what caused the emotion, you re-trigger the response, starting the cycle again. It's not the emotion itself that lingers, it's the story you keep telling yourself about it. So next time you feel anger, anxiety, or sadness rising, pause. Don't fight the feeling, just notice it. Maybe there's tightness in your chest or heat in your face. Breathe, count to 90. Let it pass through like a wave. When you practice this awareness, you shift from reacting to regulating. You become the observer, not the prisoner of your emotion. Most people never learn this. They get swept away by every emotional surge, thinking it controls them. But you're not powerless. Emotions are like storms. They rise, peak, and pass. You can either get drenched or learn to ride it out under shelter. We've all snapped at someone and regretted it seconds later. That's the 90-second rule in action. By the time your rational brain catches up, the emotion has already started to fade. Yet we blame our behavior on our feelings. Sorry, I was just angry. But that's like blaming the rain for getting wet when you chose not to bring an umbrella. Emotions don't control your actions, they just try to. Once you understand this, you realize every emotional storm has an exit, and the power to find it starts with awareness. What if disappointment isn't caused by what happens to you, but by the gap between your expectations and reality? And what if you could shrink that gap, not by lowering your standards, but by shifting your perspective? This is the power of cognitive reframing. A tool that lets you change the way you see a situation without changing the situation itself. Our brains are prediction machines, constantly forecasting outcomes, preparing for them, and building mental models of how life should go. So when something doesn't go according to plan, a rejection, a failure, a delay, it creates a gap between what you thought would happen and what actually did. That gap is where disappointment, sadness, or frustration grows. But reframing doesn't mean sugarcoating. It doesn't mean saying everything happens for a reason when you feel crushed. It means recognizing, this didn't go how I expected, so what else could it mean? Let's say you didn't get the job you really wanted. The catastrophic frame is, I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. But a reframed perspective might be, this is one setback in a long journey. What can I learn from this experience to improve for the next one? Notice how one perspective traps you in defeat while the other gives you momentum. Reframing isn't toxic positivity. It's accurate thinking, the ability to hold truth and possibility at the same time. Think back, how many times has something that felt devastating in the moment later turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Cognitive reframing lets you access that wisdom in the present, not years later. Because honestly, our brains can be drama queens. You get one piece of criticism and suddenly the mental soundtrack starts. This is the end. You've ruined everything. Meanwhile, everyone else has already moved on to thinking about dinner. Reframing lets you pause the soundtrack, change the script, and keep going. Not with denial, but with clarity. We all know the importance of a physical first aid kit. Bandages, antiseptic, maybe some painkillers. Tools we reach for when the body is hurting. But what about when the mind is in pain? What if you had a personalized emotional first aid kit? Something ready for those moments when anxiety spikes, sadness creeps in, or overwhelm takes over. Here's the truth. When you're in the middle of emotional distress, it's too late to start Googling coping strategies. You need something ready to go, and it starts with building it before the storm. Think of your emotional first aid kit as a curated set of tools based on your unique triggers that engage your senses, your body, and your mind. The goal? Interrupt emotional spirals and activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you designed to bring calm and balance. So how do you build one? Start with your most common emotional struggles. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's self-doubt. Maybe it's anger. Then, for each one, create a multi-layered plan. A physical action. something that moves energy through your body. It could be 10 jumping jacks, a walk, or even stretching. A sensory cue, a calming scent like lavender, or a grounding object you can touch. A mental reminder, a mantra like, "I've felt this before and I survived," or a question like, "What do I need right now?" A social lifeline, a note in your phone that says, "Text name." They always help me get back to center. Store this somewhere easy, a digital note, a journal, or a physical box if that works for you. Include past reminders of times you got through hard things. Proof that you're more resilient than your brain gives you credit for. Because here's what people never tell you. Emotional preparation isn't overreacting. It's wisdom. Most of us walk around completely unprepared for the thing that affects our lives most, our own feelings. And in those moments when you feel hijacked by emotion, your brain is not the calm adult in the room. It's more like a sugar-high toddler at a birthday party, sprinting toward chaos. Your emotional first aid kit is the grown-up that steps in and says, "Hey, we've got this. Let's slow down and breathe." You've probably been there, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying a mistake from years ago in high-definition detail. You want to stop thinking about it, but the harder you try, the more your brain grabs onto it like a dog with a chew toy. That's rumination. It's not problem-solving. It's mental quicksand, and it's more common than most people realize. Rumination is the brain's tendency to loop through negative thoughts, especially about things you can't change. And here's the kicker. Research shows that trying to stop these thoughts directly only makes them stronger. It's like trying to push a beach ball underwater. It just keeps popping back up. So, how do you break the cycle? You shift your relationship to the thought, not by fighting it, but by redirecting your brain. Try this technique. It's called the 5-3-1 method. First, name 5 things you can see around you. This pulls your attention into the visual present. Next, move, even just across the room or into another chair. Physical movement resets your cognitive state. Then, do 3 minutes of an absorbing task that requires focus. Try counting backward from 100 by 7s, or solving a quick logic puzzle. Anything that demands brain power. Finally, choose one small, productive action. If the issue still lingers, write down a single step you can take to deal with it. Or if there's nothing to fix, pick something unrelated to shift momentum. Wash a dish. Send a text. Move forward. This process isn't about pretending the thought didn't happen. It's about giving your brain a new job, a constructive outlet so it doesn't spiral. Because your mind is like water. It needs to flow somewhere. If you don't guide it, it'll pool in the lowest, most familiar places, usually regret, fear, or self-criticism. We all get stuck in these loops. That's normal. But you don't have to stay stuck. Remember this. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. And when you learn to redirect that mental energy, you reclaim your power. Ever walked into a room and felt like everyone was looking at you? Judging your outfit, your voice, or that one awkward thing you just did? Here's the truth. They're not. You're experiencing something called the spotlight effect, and it's one of the most deceptive tricks your brain plays on you. The spotlight effect is the tendency to massively overestimate how much other people notice or care about what you're doing. Your mind thinks there's a spotlight on you at all times, but in reality, everyone else is too busy worrying about their own spotlight. There's a classic study where students were asked to wear embarrassing t-shirts into a room full of people. Afterward, they were asked how many people they thought noticed. The guess, around 50%. The reality, less than 25%. That tells us something huge. Most of the judgment we fear is imagined. It lives inside our own heads, not in the world around us. Think about it. Can you remember a small mistake someone else made during a recent conversation or presentation? Probably not. You were too busy focusing on your performance. Understanding this phenomenon is freeing. It gives you permission to stop living under a constant mental microscope. You can walk into that room, say your piece, stumble a little, even laugh at yourself, and move on, knowing nobody is holding on to your slip-ups the way you are. Most of the time, people aren't thinking about you at all. Not because they don't care, but because they're thinking about themselves. Just like you are. So next time you catch yourself cringing at something you said or worrying about how you looked, pause, zoom out, and remember this: the spotlight is an illusion. You are not on stage. You're just one person among many, trying your best like everyone else. What if one small shift in language could make you calmer, clearer, and more in control? It can, and it starts with how you talk to yourself. Most of us go through life narrating everything in our minds using I. I can't do this. I'm such a failure. I always mess things up. But here's the psychological twist. When you shift from I to your own name or use you create emotional distance. And that distance gives you clarity. It's called third-person self-talk. And research from Michigan State University shows it activates the part of your brain that offers advice to others. Your inner coach, not your inner critic. So instead of saying, I'm overwhelmed, you say your name can figure this out. Instead of, I can't handle this, you say you've been through worse. You've got this. That small shift pulls you out of the emotional fog and into a more rational mindset. It's like zooming out from your feelings and giving yourself a pep talk, as if you were helping a friend. Because that's the irony. We're often kinder, more supportive, and more solution-focused when helping others than we are with ourselves. Third-person self-talk helps you access that same wisdom. It quiets the spiral and lets you act from calm, not chaos. So next time you're facing a challenge, take a step back. Call yourself by name. Speak like a mentor, not a critic. You'll be surprised how much more strength you have when you talk to yourself the way someone who loves you would. What if I told you that positive thinking, by itself, can actually make you less likely to achieve your goals? That's not just counterintuitive, it's backed by science. It's called mental contrasting, and it's a powerful strategy that combines optimism with realism. Instead of just visualizing success, you pair it with a clear-eyed look at the obstacles you'll face. That combo is what turns hope into momentum. Here's how it works. First, vividly imagine your desired outcome. Picture the confidence, the energy, the sense of achievement. Let yourself feel it fully. Then, switch gears. Ask, what's most likely to get in my way? Is it procrastination, exhaustion, self-doubt? Identify those roadblocks clearly. Finally, build an if-then plan. If I'm too tired after work, then I'll just do 10 minutes instead of skipping entirely. Or, if I feel discouraged, then I'll remind myself why I started. Why does this matter? Because when we only focus on the positive, we trick our brains into feeling like the work is already done. It's like getting a dopamine hit from the fantasy and losing motivation to do the hard stuff. But when you mentally rehearse the realities, the mess, the setbacks, the resistance, you're preparing your brain to face them. You're not surprised when it gets hard. You're ready. Mental contrasting makes your goals more achievable, not by making them easier, but by making you stronger. It's the difference between wishful thinking and strategic action. So dream big, but plan smart. What if stress didn't just make you tougher, but actually made you better? That's the core idea behind anti-fragility, a concept introduced by thinker Nassim Taleb. While fragile things break under pressure and resilient things survive, anti-fragile things grow stronger because of pressure. And yes, your mind can be one of them. Think about how your muscles work. You lift weights, you stress them, they tear slightly, then they rebuild, stronger than before. Your emotional system isn't much different. The key is this: you don't wait for life to throw you into chaos. You voluntarily step into controlled discomfort. Cold showers, fasting, hard conversations, trying something that might embarrass you. These small, intentional stressors build mental muscle. Over time, your brain adapts. You stop avoiding discomfort and start treating it like a training ground. Another part of building anti-fragility? Redundancy. In practical terms, it means you don't put all your emotional eggs in one basket. You have more than one way to feel grounded, connected, and purposeful. A breakup doesn't shatter you because your identity isn't built around a single person. A failure doesn't crush you because you have more than one path forward. Anti-fragility isn't about becoming numb or unbothered. It's about becoming adaptive. You face stress not as a threat, but as a tool for transformation. Think about your most meaningful growth moments. Were they easy? Probably not. They came from challenge, discomfort, sometimes even heartbreak. But you came out the other side different, wiser. So ask yourself, where can you practice being just 10% more uncomfortable today? That's the edge of your growth. That's your training ground. That's anti-fragility in action. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. Admiral James Stockdale during the Vietnam War. Admiral James Stockdale spent over 7 years as a prisoner of war. He endured torture, isolation, and years of uncertainty, and yet he survived. Not through blind optimism, but through a paradoxical mindset that saved his life. Today it's known as the Stockdale paradox. Here's how it works. On one hand, you maintain unwavering faith that you will prevail, that you will make it through. But at the same time, you fully face the brutal facts of your current situation. No sugarcoating, no denial. Stockdale said the people who struggled the most were the optimists who kept saying, "We'll be out by Christmas." And when Christmas came, and they were still imprisoned, their spirits broke. Their hope depended on a timeline. His didn't. This mindset is crucial during hard seasons, whether it's a breakup, burnout, illness, grief, or deep uncertainty. It teaches you to hold two truths at once. This is really hard, and I'm not giving up. That balance creates sustainable hope. Hope that isn't fragile. Hope that doesn't crack when deadlines pass or plans fall through. It teaches you patience. It teaches you endurance, and it frees you from the mental whiplash of expectations. So when you find yourself deep in a struggle, ask, what are the harsh facts I need to face? And how can I still believe I'll find my way through? The answer won't always be quick. But the paradox gives you something more powerful than a timeline. It gives you a direction. That's how you hold on. That's how you survive long nights without losing your mind. That's how you become someone who endures. What if resilience wasn't something you hope to have during tough times, but something you built in advance? That's what a personal resilience system is. Not a motivational poster or a temporary hack, but a real, working framework for how you handle stress, setbacks, and uncertainty. Think of it like your internal operating system. And the key is installing it before the crash, not during it. A good system covers 4 core areas. 1. Physiological regulation, calming your nervous system. 2. Cognitive framing, how you interpret events. 3. Behavioral patterns, what you actually do in tough moments. 4. Social connection, the support network that holds you steady. Let's break this down. For physiological regulation, build one go-to habit like the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Do it daily, not just when you're stressed. Make calm your baseline. For cognitive framing, practice third-person self-talk and apply the Stockdale paradox when life gets heavy. Speak to yourself like a wise friend would. For behavior, implement tools like the 90-second rule to regulate emotion, or mental contrasting to balance optimism with practical planning. And for social connection, identify 3 to 5 people in your life who are your anchor points, and regularly engage with them, not just in crisis. You can store these in a digital note, My Resilience Plan. List your tools. Review them weekly. This may sound simple, but systems beat willpower every time. You've probably noticed, the most resilient people aren't necessarily the strongest. They're the best prepared. They've trained for emotional emergencies the same way athletes train for game day. This isn't just self-help, it's self-strategy. And it's how you move through life with more clarity, more courage, and far less chaos. The truth is, life doesn't get easier, you just get better at living it. These 10 tools aren't just tricks or tips, they're practices, anchors, mental technologies that evolve with you. The 90-second rule reminds you that emotions are waves. Cognitive reframing changes what obstacles mean. Rumination tools free your attention. Anti-fragility turns pain into power. And your personal resilience system, that's your foundation, designed and built by you. When you plant these ideas in your mind, they don't disappear. They sit quietly in the background, waiting, and then one day in the middle of a storm they show up. Not as thoughts, but as instincts, as strength, as calm. You don't need to master all 10 at once, just choose one. Practice it, let it change you, then add another. Resilience isn't a destination. It's a lifestyle, one you build, one choice at a time. Now I want to ask you, which of these tools spoke to you the most? Which one will you try this week? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear. And if this video found you at the right moment, like I hope it did, tap the like button, subscribe for more grounded, science-backed content like this, and share it with someone who might need a reminder of their own strength. Until next time, remember this. You don't rise to the level of your feelings. You rise to the level of your systems. Build wisely,